Serving for 16 years on the board, you know, I've served with a number of people on the town council, and only really one mayor throughout this time. One of the things that I've recognized through the years going forward is making certain that we have a sound economy. I think that's really something that's going to lead the way as this town goes forward. I think having a sound economy in place is one that you can experience. We hear this often, but we can really see a trickle-down effect from that. I think having an economy where we can in turn entice people that can come to our town, the economy that can be strong year-round, can in turn promote not just jobs, but it can bring people to our town, and that's an important thing. One of the things we need to strive for is in turn creating an opportunity to bring more families into our community. We have today a fire company that's still very much driven by a volunteer type of base. We have a number of entities in this town that are driven by a volunteer base. If we want to keep these basic principles, we've got to be able to start first and foremost with having, again, an economy that we know that is strong and will lead us into the future. We don't want to have a fire company that in turn transitions itself into a partly funded fire company where you have to pay your members. And if we don't continue to bring in, again, families and youth into this town, into our very fabric of who we are as a community, it's going to be one that's we're going to begin to experience very high taxes. We're going to in turn experience higher user rates for very much our basic services. So again, I think by having an economy that works well, we can in turn begin to set aside what are funds for our capital projects. We know that we have both a water and a sewer plant that does have needs, and its needs have been on the drawing board for some time, but the problem has been we've never really had the ability to put those funds aside and in turn correct these issues as we go forward. We just don't want to be shocked with these sticker fees as we in turn have to replace them as we will in the very near future.
Thank you, sir. The first question from the audience for Mr. Willis. What do you think, or how would you characterize the ideal working relationship between the mayor and the town manager?
Another good question. I think in any business relationship, whether it's in the private sector, in the government sector, we really have to base our ability to find successes on really a good, sound communication. And I think that's an area that was one that began to really fall apart within the town. I think anybody that we have some involvement in whatever we do today, you have to have that means to be able to communicate. You have to be able to put information out on the table that we all really know that we have to work with. And again, I don't think this is an impossible task. I think, though, it is a task that we have to make, which is first and foremost. And it's not going to be just for me. It's going to be for any of our leaders in this town. We have to make certain as we go forward that each of the two groups really have to respect one another. And that's the elected officials and that's the paid employees of the town of Rock Hall. And I think there is a very much of a relationship that can exist and should exist. We've seen it and we can continue to find this relationship going forward. Today, Rock Hall, like many other towns, we have our challenges and we will continue to. But in an effort to be able to, in turn, overcome these challenges, we have to really be able to know exactly what we're working with. We have to know what our strengths and what our weaknesses are within this town. And this is a very, I'm going to say, communication is the one thing that's going to drive this ship as we go forward. And we can go forward, and this is something we can achieve. Rock Hall is a very spirited, a very involved community. And I think what I have seen through the years is people really rally behind one another. And I think we certainly see at times where there's a need to, recognize what our weaknesses, and I think we've identified some of these. But I think now we really need to collect our resources and our strengths and our abilities and move this town forward.
Thank you. Mr. Jones, your own views on an ideal working relationship between the mayor and the town manager?
Well, it's important to work together as a team. I've demonstrated that for the past 4 years being in office. I've worked closely with the town manager. I continue to work closely with the town manager. For the past 2 years, the town manager and I have met frequently, probably on a day-to-day basis, to get updated on what's going on within the town, what action items need to be completed, what we need to take to the mayor and the council, and that has worked well. I've also had a good working relationship with the town staff. There are times where, there will be disagreements, but it's important to work collaboratively as a team to do what's best for the town and its citizens.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Jones, there's sort of a dynamic tension between new businesses that you'd like to attract and support of established businesses. Could you give us your views on what type of business you'd like to see come to Rock Hall and how you might ensure the success of established businesses?
Well, I'm all about growth. I do believe that it needs to be controlled growth. By that meaning, attract businesses that we necessarily don't already have many of. So, for instance, we're approaching the limit to how many restaurants we have, how many bar establishments are in town. Every time that a new business comes in, it affects their business, and they're having hard times. They're struggling already as it is. So it's important to find controlled growth, attract businesses that don't necessarily interfere with their current activity. As we look at the Clam House, that's an opportunity for marine-dependent businesses to come in, and that's something we need more of. So I would work closely with the citizens and the town government to attract new businesses that won't necessarily affect the businesses that we already have established.